to Stories by the Fire. I'm Wildfire, and today we'll be reading Playing with Fire, I Feel Warm. Before we get settled in with our story, remember to like and subscribe for my algorithm, for your algorithm, and to keep me encouraged. That being said, grab your comfort beverage if you can. Mine is hot apple cider today, and enjoy the story. Playing with Fire, I Feel Warm is a My Hero Academia multi-ship fic written by The Moon is Dead and is rated T. Standard operating procedure on this channel means I will be censoring language to a certain extent. Thank you, Touya, for your colorful language, with the author's permission, of course. Neither I nor the author own My Hero Academia or its characters. Summary. Keigo works his jaw, his gaze dark and unfriendly. You're such an overwhelming jerk. Breaking news on Channel 7. After taking several calming breaths, Keigo stiffly attempts to move on. Well, joke's on you. Fuyumi already warned me you'd be especially jerky today. Touya carefully doesn't slip into a scowl. Keigo continues, amusement slowly, forcefully filling his countenance. She said you lash out when you get flustered, so I shouldn't take any insults to heart. Oh, yeah? Touya leans towards the hero, taunting. And how's that working out for you? Or, with the pretext of Snowbunny becoming official, dabihawks attempt to become friends. You wanted to watch this. Touya finally snaps, cutting Keigo off and pausing the screen. Not minding the clear warning in his tone, Keigo smiles his fake press smile, which only irritates Touya further. Well, it was either watching something I had never seen before or be subjected to your punk emo music taste, so Touya's music slaps. So, screw you. I just chose the option I could live with. And talk through, apparently. Watching TV means quiet time. Shut up and pay attention. You've already seen it, though. Keigo shrugs. I'm sure there will be plenty of chances for me to watch it later. His gaze turns calculated and cold. For now, I'm more interested in trying to make sure I never again fall behind when you decide to act on your vendetta. Vendetta? I won't be blindsided by your rage again, Dobby, he promises. You put me in a terrible position, and that was weeks ago. And your stupid flipping hero lived, so obviously... It's not about... Actually, you know what? Fine. Is that how he wants to play it? It's not enough. Touya huffs. Fine. Fine, Keigo repeats. His wings twitch angrily with the rough pronunciation. Touya turns peacefully back to the TV, pressing play and reclining back into the couch cushions. The color and captions blur past his eyes, background to the clock ticking down in his head. 5, 4, right on cue, Keigo bursts out. Just leave me in the dark and don't tell me anything about your traumatic childhood. He draws, I didn't have a traumatic childhood. Why? The hero rolls his eyes. Because you were never a child? Dobbs, I'm not judging you. I'm trying to empathize with you. Wow. At this rate, Keigo is going to make Touya puke. He groans. If we both had shitty childhoods, there's no reason to rehash that old crap. We have nothing to do with one another. See, that's where you're wrong. And not just because any therapist worth their salt would ask you very condescendingly how all your obvious repression has served you so far, he taunts. We have a lot to do with one another these days. Right, because Yumi's finally given Rumi a chance, and her new girlfriend comes with this feathered baggage. Touya scowls. Fine, so we have to be cordial. That doesn't mean we have to trauma bond, or however Bugs would say it. I'm not trying to... Dobby, Keigo sighs. I'm just trying to understand you. Do that on your own time. I'm not a puzzle. There's nothing to solve. Obviously not, he laughs, because I'm great at puzzles and other problems that make sense. Sitting up from his comfortable position, Touya groans. Flipping, fine, so what? What do you want? Keigo leans forward, obviously feeling excited about the apparent headway. I want us to find some common ground. Something you can't turn into an argument, he adds with a small huff. Touya rises to the bait without bothering to think it through. Sure, there's plenty he and Keigo have in common now. Enough to maybe be genuine friends once they set aside their pride. But Touya can and will turn anything into an argument. He listened to the hero's monologue over the TV this whole time too, so he has plenty to work with. Okay, yeah, I get what you mean, he admits slowly. A triumphant light glows in Keigo's eyes. So easy, Touya thinks disparagingly, eagerly awaiting the moment those predator orbs dim once more. My sperm donor arrested yours, saving your life, but also condemning you and your mother to poverty without Takumi the thief to supplement your household income. Since poverty is something no hero can save you from, your mother sold you off to a better life, and now you maintain a complicated relationship with her and your guardians in the Hero Public Safety Commission. Solely because you're an incurable people pleaser. I mean, because you're so kind-hearted and forgiving. Pretty sure it's not normal to have a secret safe house away from good parents. But if you don't want to burn those rotting bridges, that's your business. I kinda get it when it comes to your mom, I guess, but personally, I'd torch the HPSC building and cut all contact with that deadweight. A public expose, too. That'd be fun. You do you, though. Keigo works his jaw, his gaze dark and unfriendly. You're such an overwhelming jerk. Breaking news on Channel 7. After taking several calming breaths, Keigo stiffly attempts to move on. Well, joke's on you. Fuyumi already warned me you'd be especially jerky today. Touya carefully doesn't slip into a scowl. Keigo continues, amusement slowly, forcefully filling his countenance. She said you lash out when you get flustered, so I shouldn't take any insults to heart. Oh, yeah? Touya leans towards the hero, taunting. And how's that working out for you? It's not his fault that anger is the easiest emotion to understand. Besides, the fact that Keigo has already practiced some data collection on him, talking about him behind his backs to his siblings, tells Touya that the winged hero is perfectly capable of understanding Touya just fine on his own. No pointless touchy-feely conversation needed. Keigo reiterates, I know you're being a jerk because you actually want us to be friends. I want to not cause problems for my little sister, Touya corrects. Tolerating you is the most direct way to ensure I don't. At least until I usurp you as Bug's best friend, at which point I'll be able to dispose of you properly. Keigo cackles, like the sound was surprised out of him. In your burnt dreams, Bacon! Touya rolls his eyes, turning away from the other. The motion draws his attention back to the screen, which he didn't pause again, and is now resultantly too many important plot points in for them to bother with the facade of watching anymore. Which is just as well, because now Touya can just kick the hero out. Let's call it a day, Birdie. Wait! Touya sighs, bracing himself for whatever ridiculous thing is about to come out of his mouth now. You just got my whole backstory. I feel like I've earned a fun fact about you. A fun fact? Grow up. Come on, hot stuff. It won't take long if you just work with me a bit, he bargains. Touya only considers it because it's the closest he has to an apology for his earlier remarks. Then again, he doesn't need to apologize, so it's only the near expertly masked disappointment he can imagine on Fuyumi's face if he doesn't put in an honest effort to squash the pettiness between himself and this hero that ultimately leads him to acquiesce. Fine, you get one fun fact. On a topic of my choosing. Touya's eye twitches with the interruption, but he's not a quitter. Sure, one. Choose well. And he does. He thinks about it in blissful quiet for a long moment, his wings moving lazily as the two of them size each other up. Eventually, Keigo nods decidedly and asks, Does your mom know? Ha! Touya can only blame himself, but he thinks Keigo should work on his definition of fun. No. He frowns in confusion. What? Why? You don't think she wants to know that her son is alive? That all her children are still together? Touya meant no, as in, no, we're not having this conversation, but technically Keigo's interpretation is not incorrect. To be fair, he never specified that he'd have veto power beforehand, but to be frank, he didn't expect the hero to pick the one subject he doesn't like to discuss. Touya should have, probably, because this is the same hero who, unprompted, just hashed out the bare bones of his own complicated maternal relationship. But still. It puts him in a darker mood. What, Fuyumi didn't tell you? She always has so much to say on the topic, and you already went to her once. She came to me, actually, and your mom didn't come up. She never does, so I'm curious. Why won't you tell her? He hesitates, but in the face of Keigo's insufferable and lasting patience, Touya admits, it wouldn't do her any good. She's fine just seeing the others. Rei's recovery is bumpy. She's getting better, slowly, but it's difficult and non-linear, or whatever. Everyone is better off without Touya barging in and messing up that delicate balancing act. Keigo frowns. I don't think you can decide that. Yeah, well, you're not exactly qualified to butt in. I'm just saying. He holds up his hands. You clearly care about her, so... Flipping hawks. Touya snaps. I'm saying I just remind her of her lousy husband. Keigo stares at him for a solid few seconds before confessing, I don't get it. For flip's sake. There's nothing to not get. No, seriously. He leans forward, observing Touya like he's a specimen trapped behind glass. Your hair is white under your lousy black dye, not Endeavor's red. Your eyes aren't really the same blue. The heck? You spend a lot of time staring into that man's eyes? That might explain why he was so upset over his idol's new facial scar, but Touya needs to stay very far away from that line of thought. Keigo ignores him. Maybe you have the same temper? He hums in dissatisfaction. But I've never seen you unleash it on your loved ones, so that's moot. I mean, you're a waspish jerk, absolutely, but none of them are scared of you. You don't even really look like him when you're annoyed, and I don't think I've ever seen his face when he's not annoyed, so I know. He knows because he works with Endeavor on occasion. Significantly less often these days, a change Touya doesn't pay any attention to at all. He rolls his eyes and snarks. I'm sure you do. Whatever, Dobby. He waves him off. I really don't think going to see her would be as traumatizing as you think. You shouldn't make that your excuse. Touya will reluctantly and half disbelievingly allow that perhaps it's difficult to see Inji in his face beneath all the scars. But that in and of itself is an issue too. Rei is famously squeamish. She doesn't want to see Frankenstein's creature reincarnated sneaking into her hospital room in the middle of the night. She couldn't look him in the face back when he was young, back when he still had red hair, when his burns weren't so extensive but were arguably just as horrific. She couldn't help him with first aid. Her hands shook too much, and she couldn't bear to see him bleed, so he learned to do it all by himself. And she would certainly see him bleed, if they ever met again, because Touya's messed up tear ducts will release buckets of blood the moment they make eye contact. There's no winning, no painless way to reintroduce himself to her. Either she'll see the ghost of her unbearable husband, or a monster, or both. Probably both. What's the difference, anyways? And he could explain all that to Keigo, but Touya doesn't have to take anything from someone who doesn't know anything. He sighs, completely over it. Sure, Birdie. You're a terrible yes man. Keigo intones, flatly enough to rival Toya's own delivery. And you don't know how to mind your own business and let stuff go, but you don't see me harping at you about it. All you do is harp at me. Figured now it's my turn. Well, you suck at it. Leave it to a true professional. Don't mess up the vibe. Keigo sidesteps and expertly displays his inability to let well enough be. You know, you must take after your mom. Your features are delicate. He observes, leaning toward him. Pretty. Well, whoops. Feathers should have quit while he was ahead. Touya is already well aware that he's not pretty. That the presence of his mother's soft features on his face is an aberration. It's not something he's all that sensitive about, so he mostly just finds it funny that Keigo is so simple and vain that he thinks complimenting Touya's looks will improve his mood. In his amusement, Touya decides to throw him a bone. Obviously, I take after her. It's her genes that make me look like this. That's what I just... Oh, you mean your eye's proof? Keigo realizes. Mostly, he shrugs. I have some fire-resistant areas, but yeah, it's part of why I'm barbecuing myself from the inside out. A feather shoots out from one of Keigo's wings and rests against some exposed skin on Touya's arm. The villain is too surprised to do anything about it. He knows his eyes are widened in shock when he glances from the feather to the bird. It spurs Keigo into talking a mile a minute. Sorry, I wasn't thinking. Well, I was wondering what that means for, like, your real life, and wow, man, you're really hot. Riley, Touya snorts. Gee, thanks. I mean, your skin is so warm. He squints at him. And you're not angry either. I always thought the heat I sensed from you was barely refraining from cremating me, but this is your baseline, isn't it? Were you not listening? I'm constantly barely refraining from cremating myself, even without your help. He dismisses. More importantly, you can tell all that through your feathers? Keigo shrugs. Yeah, temperature is always easy. Then what's difficult? Nothing, really. I'm good at everything I do. Touya feels all the interest he didn't realize he'd been displaying abruptly fall from his face. Blandly, he intones, typical. Force of habit. Keigo apologizes for not sharing something that could potentially be used against him. Touya is placated. It's good when others recognize him as a villain on their own. Otherwise, he starts to feel like he's going soft. If I have to pick something, Keigo hums, then sound? The question Touya means to ask is an annoyed, are you asking me? But what comes out is a surprised, you can hear through these things? Kinda, like, think about it like this. Anything I'm directly touching, through the feathers, is easy. Those readings are fairly unambiguous, but sensations that travel to a feather have to be strong. Sound is the most inconsistent. He shrugs. Touya listens, so Keigo continues. The heat of a natural disaster, the difference between fresh water versus salt water versus an oil spill in either, that's all simple. But sound gets complicated. If it's too quiet, all I can hear is that it's there, not what it is. It's taken a lot of experience in the field to follow my gut about how to triage the signals, so that I won't use up all my feathers in the first 10 minutes of every patrol shift. I wouldn't be able to help anyone if that happened. The balancing acts of heroics are boring and self-explanatory. So Touya focuses on the interesting bit. Yes, good job. Gold star to you, Hawks. So you're saying that if I hold this feather while you're somewhere else, you'd be able to hear me speak to it. Keigo huffs a bit, but he gets with the program. Yeah, so long as it's unbroken. People shouting or crying, their heartbeats or labored breathing, those are easy enough, especially if I'm touching them directly or already have a baseline. But none of that is strictly necessary. I don't usually physically touch people with them unless I have to. I get a few false alarms, of course, but it's par for the course when I'm getting individual signals from each feather and parsing them out myself. Touya makes sure the what the heck repeating in his head doesn't come out. But seriously, what the heck? A quick glance at Keigo's restless wings. Is it that there's too much stimulation all the time that keeps them in motion? Or is it just his bird instincts making sure he's always alert? Assures Touya that there are hundreds of feathers, and therefore hundreds of signals that the hero is receiving at once at all times. He should be insane. Touya tilts his head slightly, looking closer. Actually, that tracks. Without any prompting this time, Keigo continues. Strategic placement of loose feathers helps, as does me being within a decent range of them. If I'm just focusing on a few feathers at a time, if I use them like surveillance bugs, for example, a lot of those restrictions go away. Heck, if you're touching the feather, I can hear you speak through it and measure your vitals simultaneously. He considers. Keigo probably was paying attention to the TV the whole time, unending chatter notwithstanding. Touya admits, "You're more impressive than I thought." He squints back at him. That doesn't sound like a compliment. It wasn't one. Touya assuages. So you can limit the amount of signals you take in. Oh, then that's why you still let people touch your wings on TV and stuff. Yeah, I can shut out inputs that aren't pertinent if I focus. So if someone asks to pet my wings, like you're some kind of showbird, Touya nods along, and I know their hands are clean, usually I don't mind. It doesn't hurt to let people be curious, so long as they respect my boundaries and receive my consent. Touya raises his arm, reminding Keigo about his feather. And the reason this is still sticking to me is... Cheeks flooding with color, Keigo rushes. Sorry, No, it's not that I mind, Touya interrupts, pausing the feather mid-flight back to a wing. I'm genuinely asking. Is it a bird thing? Like the blinking? The what? You haven't blinked since you came over. He glosses. You almost never blink. So I looked it up the other day. He pokes at the immobile feather between them, slow and gentle, so Keigo has time to move it. Your feather apparently didn't mind the weird texture of my scars because, what? I'm so warm? He stares at him for a long moment. Yes, actually, to both. But also, the texture of your scars is transmitted really interestingly through the feathers. It's not off-putting, I guess would be the word. It's just interesting. Kind of fun. I like it. Sure. Touya agrees. And yet I'm the one everyone is always calling deranged. So, what else you got? Give me some actually fun facts about the bird hero. Promise I won't sell them to your little fans online. That's comforting, Keigo says, amusement in the curl of his mouth. If only it was genuine. Touya offers him a grin, too. Won't know unless you try, right? Come on, pretty bird. Fun fact. Oh, Keigo smiles, proud to announce. Fun fact, I can't cry. The anticlimactic reveal is awful enough that Touya snorts soft, almost laughter. Yeah, me neither. You're not special. Except, he holds up a finger, the fact that I can't cry is a fun fact about my bird aspects. The fact that you can't cry is depressing and related to your cremation. None of that is fun. Ergo, I win. That pulls Touya up short. You win? Yep, and you lose. As entirely illogical as it is, it's a conclusion which necessarily sparks the competition to one-up on another. Touya isn't the only one who doesn't notice the time passing, the pair of them too busy mutually offering and critiquing one another's personal fun facts. I'll give you the knives on your hands and feet being cool as heck, he concedes after a demonstration of the sharpness of his talons. But your torpor in cold tanks its overall effect. You lose. Nobody likes the cold. Keigo flexes his wings. We're talking about freezing temperatures here. One, you're wrong. And even if a not insubstantial amount of people hate the cold, most of them can still move in it. He stares smugly at the agitated motion of Keigo's wings. Yourself not included. Clearly. Second of all, freezing isn't a meaningful category to me, so... He shrugs. My point stands. Keigo gestures emphatically with his hands. You cannot put talents and cold resistance on the same bracket. That doesn't make any sense. Those traits aren't comparable at all. Except I can, because I did and I won. Keigo can take issue, but he's got 1,000 moving parts to his quirk. Fire, even Touya's wonky version of it, isn't that complicated. Die mad about it. That's how Rumi and Fuyumi find them. Once the women have returned from their date, and are trying to visit Keigo and Touya respectively in order to talk about how it went. Great. It went really, really well, and the ladies cannot wait to gush up to their best friend / brother once the guys are done doing whatever this is. I can't taste spiciness, and you have a palate closer to an ice user than a fire user, so I could ruin your day if I ever make you something to eat. You could ruin my whole day, even without poisoning me with spice. You can't cook, Kay. It's guaranteed food poisoning if I eat something concocted by you. Flipping rude? Then flipping learn. It's not like it's hard. Of course you'd say that. Is this... Rumi hesitates, watching them go back and forth, seemingly oblivious to their arrival. Friendship? It's something. Fuyumi reluctantly responds, and she leaves it at that. I absolutely can see Keigo and Touya just building a friendship on one-upping each other's trauma / fun facts. I mean, for them, it's kind of an overlapping concept, their trauma and their fun facts. But yeah, very them. The link to this original work is in the description, as well as a link to the Stories by the Fire Discord server if anyone wants to come chatter. I do welcome constructive criticism in regards to my readings, and I love to hear comments about the story itself. As we wrap up our video, we have a message from Spitfire.
Like the video to support Wildfire. Subscribe to Stories by the Fire to find the rest of her videos. Hit the bell so you are notified when her next video comes up. Have a good day or night. Bye bye.